So as I say, it's a bit of a break in tradition. It's just open it up for a panel discussion on living well with MND. I know as a family we lived with MND for 7 years, and when I was thinking back this morning about our experience with it, and my brother Carl was diagnosed with MND. As he moved through the condition, he had to get a little bit more selfish with his time, and he had to, and it was against his nature. He had to say, no, I'm not doing that. Yes, I am doing that. Or I have 2 events on the same day. Can only do one, so I've got to prioritise. And I suppose he was combating fatigue with the condition. So planning was critical to him. So you'd have to say, okay, I'm planning my day. I know what's happening. I'll stay in bed a little bit longer. I'll go for an afternoon snooze. So as a family, we all adapted to what he wanted. And he might go on the nippy then for a while in the afternoon because he knew he had to be up for an event in the evening. So, he dictated the pace. And we were all very clear that, nobody took offence to it. He was dictating what he was able to do. And then the services that were provided, the medical services and the services by MND or IMNDA, enabled that to happen, so made him more comfortable. And the chair, the wheelchair, all of those services made a huge difference to him. And because they made a huge difference to him, they made a huge difference to us as a family. So we saw that some of the pain was taken out of the condition. It made it easier for him to live with the condition, and then for us to support him in doing that. So,
one of the things that I learned very early on in my career,
I think it's on.
looking after people or walking the walk with people with this condition, is that the person is the same. And one of the things that's really important is not to let the disease define who you are. You're a person who happens to have motor neuron disease, but you're still the person. The second thing that I think, and Teresa alluded to this as well, is one of the things that's really important is we all plan for our futures, and we all think prospectively what we're going to do, and we map this out. We're taught to do that from the time we're at school. And when we get a diagnosis of a critical illness or a chronic illness, that whole map gets exploded, and everything is shattered, and it's a catastrophic event. It's a big earthquake in a person's life. But one of the things that helps put that back together is to recognise that actually the future is unknown. It's unknowable. The future is what we predict. It's never really what we know is going to happen. The future actually is probably never what we anticipate. Teresa's comment about, getting back into the place of living for the moment, that sort of Zen place, is really important, because that actually refocuses on the here and now, and then as you were saying around cause experience, it's working around the disability with enabling devices, but not letting that define you. I mean, you can still be the person that you always were, and for the family, being that person and living with that person, and not living with the disease is really important. And I think for me, I learned that a lot. I learned that from walking the walk with people. I'm sure, Teresa, you've had that experience as well. So forgetting about the future and living in the moment is really important, because the future is never the way we would have anticipated it anyway.
If I could just bring in the nurse's viewpoint, because I suppose you're out there every day. You're probably picking up on just what works well for the majority, what doesn't work well for the majority. So is there anything you can share with the audience?
I think the living in the now and being present, and I think it's really to focus on that as the disease changes, what we're able to do changes as well. So things that we might enjoy now, like going out for a walk or a run or going out to gardening, they might change. But the thing is that you're doing something. So it doesn't matter what you do every day, but if you plan to do something every day, if it's a task or spending time with family and friends, that you're focused on doing something, it doesn't matter what it is, but you're doing something for yourself every day as well, that you can enjoy, and it brings you some comfort as well too. I don't know if there's anything.
Yeah, I think psychologically, you know, it's always good for everybody to have accomplished something in a day. So, you know, you tick that box and you feel good. And then, as we were saying earlier on today, you know, if you feel good, then you feel able to do more. So, and you're open to do more, and you're kind of lifting your spirit, I suppose. And
maybe it's around I think about talking about that as well. It is, you know, your life is changing. What you can do is changing. And it's very hard if you're a very active person and you're not able to be as active, and communicating that with your loved ones, your family, and, you know, and having open conversations. And I think that's really hard if you're not used to having open conversations with people as well. But I think, and I know from listening to our nursing team, is that sometimes you're the instigator in a conversation, to be able to start a conversation to happen between families, because it is really difficult if you're struggling to start to talk about what you're struggling with the people that you're living with, and they're caring for you every single day of the week. Yeah.
Plus, I think, Prof. Plus, what you think you want, or what you think would be the worst case scenario, we all learn as we go through life. You accept less. So actually what you imagine would be less than perfect when you get to move on, you know, in a stage of a chronic illness. You actually live through it, and actually you can go to the next step. Whereas when we're well and we think, you know, that a certain stage would be, you know, terrible, you actually, what you imagine was the worst isn't the worst when you get there. You accept more through it.
So that's really important, and we actually have data to show that people, I showed a slide, that people's quality of life goes up, actually, it doesn't go down. If you say, I measure quality of life to see if you can still walk, and then walking is a problem, then, you know, the medic's going to think, oh, you've really awful quality of life. Like Maire was saying, the idea, I mean, Charlie Bird talks about this, this idea of being in a wheelchair is anathema to him. It would be awful if you got in a wheelchair. But the point is that by the time if somebody were to need something like that, it would be an enabling device, not a disabling device. Yeah. So I think Maire is right, that what we say to people is you're 7 or 8 bridges ahead of us. And by the time you get, if you ever get to that bridge, you'll be a different person than you are now. And the human resilience is enormous, and people can do this. But the other point I was going to say is we're talking about loss, but actually there are gains as well. So I don't know if Fraser Holden, who probably isn't here today, Fraser's a guy that we know, is motor neuron disease, who discovered his artistic talent after he developed motor neuron disease. And he's a fantastic artist, and his work has been bought now by some large corporation. John Daly, who's very kindly did something on for RT, is a consummate poet. John? Yeah. Is he? Yeah. So John found his poetry. So we've seen this repeatedly in people where things that maybe they didn't discover while they were busy, you know, running their lives, that other aspects of their lives can become quite important and valuable and valued, and that's really important. And that shift that people make, and Miriam has done that work showing the types of shifts that people make from being out with friends to doing something else that's feasible and doable, and that's really important. And the other thing that's really important, it's Miriam's work as well, is showing that we always think, oh, you know, disability and work around the disability, but Miriam has done quite a bit of work as well on the positive attributes of caregiving. So, you know, that can be, you know, we talked, Teresa showed the slide showing the caregiver burden. and we've done some work on this. But there's an unspoken positive attribute to caring as well, and closeness, and people becoming closer. So I think that being able to see the aspects of living that are maybe hidden because of the sort of general view about this condition with a very bad reputation. Sometimes we need to point out that there are aspects that can give great joy and great peace and great benefit and show great love. And I think we shouldn't forget that. It's really important.
I know my brother Carl attended this session. He didn't the very first year he was diagnosed because he didn't want to know about it. And myself and my dad came in his stead. And then after that, he would never miss it. And one of the reasons was because he struck up friendships with other sufferers from motor neuron disease. And during the year, between conferences, they would be in contact with each other. What's working for you? I find this works. I'm going to this guy. He's really good. You know, and they're sharing that. And it's kind of informally, but it's. I know Carl got great benefit from talking to somebody else who is in the same position, whereas family members are a bit guarded, maybe perhaps, and so, you know, he felt, well, I can speak to people who are on the same trajectory as me, who are benefiting from services, and maybe I can benefit too, or I can share my experience with them.
Motivate each other. Motivate each other.
Yeah.
You know?
Yeah, exactly.
I mean, we can all talk, we can all sit up here and talk about, you know, our thoughts, but at the end of the day, we're not walking in your shoes. So it's lovely to see the support that other people can give each other, and that's invaluable.
Okay, any final comments before we wrap up?
Humour, it's really important. It's really important to laugh and joke, and you know, we have great fun in the clinic actually. Fidelma and Athlone will attest to that. Humour is really important. Everybody is very humorous. Everybody can be funny. And so humour is really good. It breaks down barriers. It's really important. And there's lots to laugh about. We should laugh. We should have humour. Humour is good. You know?
Okay, guys, we'll draw to a close. We'll go over and get our mics off, and I'll hand you over to Jonathan.
Very good. A huge round of applause, please, if we can, for Teresa, Naomi, Louise, Maire, Orla and Norman. Thanks very much, folks. We'll leave you go off the stage at the side there. That was fascinating, a really, really interesting insight from the perspective of our medical professionals. Just one point that Helen sent through on the Zoom. Helen, thank you very much. She said, very important to focus on what you can do rather than what you can't. Not always easy, but a very good and positive approach. And that, ladies and gentlemen, is a beautiful point at which we can park this morning and this afternoon's event. I'm always humbled to be in the presence of people who are on the journey that you are on, purely because you're all at different stages. You're all here because you want to learn, you want to see where it is you are going. The point I made at the start is the point I'll make again. You are on your journey, and it is our job to take that journey with you. So please keep in contact, take up the supports that are there. To others who aren't here, to those who are on the Zoom, keep them in your thoughts as well, and say to them that there is help, and no one at any point is on their own. So thank you so much for your attendance here today. I have some housekeeping to do, which I'll get killed if I don't read out loud. There are afternoon workshop sessions that are going to be going on. There's 3 of them in total. There's arm and hand massage, learning the techniques with Ethel Wallace. That's going to be in the Killinure suite. There's session 2 is self-care for caregivers with Mary Scarf. That is in the lounge, which is just behind us here. And meet the IMNDA nurses, Ethna and Fidelma, I'm told, have a lovely dance routine set up, and they'll be doing that in the library a little bit later on as well. No better girls, the 2 of them. Drinks tonight, if you are attending this evening. Drinks are going to be at 6:30 in the room at the outside there, and dinner at 7. This dance floor can put up with an awful lot of abuse, lads, and I want to see it. I want to see it being used this evening. For those of you who have spoken to or who were thinking about speaking to our wonderful exhibitors outside and our IMNDA shop, which is outside as well, that's all going to be there until 2 o'clock only. So if you want to maybe pop out to them before you go and have your lunch, there's plenty of lunch that can be had as well. But for everybody else, lunch is now being served. It's in the Octagon, which is out the front. Those of you staying in the hotel, it's where you had your breakfast this morning. But you can either go out that door or out that door. But again, a huge thank you to all of the IMNDA team. So can we just have a huge round of applause for them? To everyone here at the Hudson Bay, to the team from Cavs who helped us stream everything. On behalf of them all, Goramila Mahagav Galer, August Slán Gafol.